I don't know if I'm more terrified that it's still here on my screen or that I can't bring myself to close it. The file is open, that file, and it isn't just sitting there quietly. It's moving, breathing almost. The cursor drags itself across the page as if an invisible hand is typing, and each word that appears is my own name, repeated over and over in a dozen different fonts. Sometimes lowercase, sometimes screaming in all caps, sometimes backwards, mirrored so I only realize what it says after staring too long. I swear I heard it whisper once. Not the speakers. No, I had them unplugged the moment things started getting strange. But when the word stretched itself into the shape of a sentence, I heard my name spoken aloud, like it had crawled out from between the letters and into the air. It was quiet, but not quiet enough. Like something leaning close to my ear in the dark. That isn't even the worst part. Not by a long shot. The worst part is still coming, and it makes this endless chant of my own name look like a children's prank. I wish that were all it was. I wish I could laugh, shut the lid, throw the laptop in the trash, and move on with my life. But if you're hearing this, it means I didn't, and you're already closer to the truth than you should be. Let me back up. You don't end up in this kind of mess by making one bad choice. It's a dozen little ones. Tiny, stupid decisions that pile up until suddenly you're staring at a glowing screen, convinced that whatever's on the other side of it is staring right back. My first mistake? Curiosity. That late night itch when you've been scrolling too long and nothing feels new anymore. Normal people watch a dumb video, fall asleep with their phone in their hand. I decided to dig deeper. I'd heard about the dark web the same way everyone has. Half-joking stories in forums, warnings that sound less like warnings and more like dares. And I thought, why not? That's always how it starts, isn't it? Some idiot says why not to something everyone else avoids. And in my defense, the deal looked harmless. A used laptop, advertised in a tucked-away thread where most of the listings were drugs or worse. The description was vague, just 3 words, loaded with secrets. I should have laughed, closed the page, maybe cleared my search history just in case. But the phrasing gnawed at me. Secrets. It wasn't saying files or programs. It was promising something I wasn't supposed to have. And the thing about forbidden knowledge is it doesn't have to sparkle to feel valuable. It just has to be hidden. I told myself it would be a story, a joke to tell friends. Yeah, I bought some sketchy junk from the dark web, and all I got was a virus and a headache. I convinced myself that was the worst-case scenario. A fried hard drive. A little wasted money. What I got was different. See, the laptop didn't arrive in some obvious horror movie way. No black candles or blood smears on the cardboard box. It came wrapped in plain brown tape, the kind of package you could mistake for an Amazon delivery. That almost made it worse. There was no red flag to save me from myself. It slid right into my apartment, quiet and unassuming, like it belonged. And it did work, perfectly at first. Too perfectly. No lag, no pop-ups, not even the clunky sound of an overworked fan. For an old machine, it was unnervingly smooth, like it wanted me comfortable before it sank its teeth in. But I'll get there. I'll tell you about the folder, the videos, the messages. I'll tell you why I don't dare turn this thing off, even now. But you need the whole picture to understand why I'm sitting here with the screen glowing like a funeral candle, terrified to blink. Because the first time I saw the file, the one that shouldn't exist, it wasn't just waiting for me. It was calling, and I was stupid enough to answer. It started the way bad habits always do, boredom mixed with curiosity. My nights had fallen into this loop. Endless scrolling, half-watching videos I didn't care about. The glow of the screen filling the silence of an apartment that felt emptier with every passing day. Most people drift into sleep like that. Me? I leaned forward. I went looking for something new. You know how they say the dark web is like an iceberg, most of it hidden beneath the surface, accessible only if you know where to dig? I'd always laughed that off as urban legend mixed with fear-mongering. But at 2 a.m., when the world outside is silent and your own thoughts echo too loud, fear starts to feel less like a warning and more like an invitation. I didn't plan on finding anything. Honestly, I thought it'd be the digital equivalent of exploring a haunted house. Creaky, dusty, nothing but shadows and your own nerves. But then I found the forum. It didn't look like much. Plain text, no flashy graphics, just threads stacked on threads. Half of them were nonsense, people selling knockoff software or arguing about encryption. But scattered in between were the stranger posts, listings for things you couldn't just Google. Strange recordings, bizarre services, and then hardware, used laptop, loaded with secrets. That was the title. No price listed, no specs, nothing that would help a rational buyer. Just 3 words. At first, I thought it was some scammer's idea of clickbait. I almost scrolled past, but something about the phrasing gnawed at me. Secrets, not files, not software. Secrets. I clicked. The description was even shorter than the title, for those who want to know. That was it. No warranty. No details. No reassurance that I wasn't about to buy a busted hunk of plastic. Just a promise that if I wanted to know something, really know something, this laptop would deliver. Now, I like to think I'm not stupid. I'd read enough stories to know the cliches. Buy something mysterious online, end up with malware or worse. But cliches work because they're tempting. I remember smirking to myself, muttering, "What's the worst that could happen? I should have known better." Everyone always says that in hindsight, but seriously, I should have known better. Because the second I clicked the contact seller link, I felt the air in the room shift. Like I just opened a door I couldn't shut. The seller's username was Obel. Just that. A reference I didn't catch until later. The Obel, the coin ancient Greeks placed on the tongues of the dead to pay Sharon for passage across the Styx. At the time, though, it was just a weird name. I messaged, "Still available?" The reply came instantly. Too instantly. Yes. That was it. No introduction, no sales pitch. Just yes. How much? I typed. Again, instant, whatever you can afford. It should have creeped me out. No fixed price, no haggling, just give me something. But instead of feeling like a scam, it felt personal. Like the seller already knew I'd pay, no matter what number I chose. We exchanged details and clipped, clinical lines. No warmth, no wasted words. By the end, I had an address to send cash and a promise the laptop would arrive when the time is right. That phrase stuck in my head, bouncing around like a loose marble. Not in 5 to 7 business days. Not overnight shipping. When the time is right. I should have pulled the plug then, but I didn't. I told myself it was a gamble, a cheap thrill. Worst case, I'd lose some cash and a little pride. Best case, I'd get a funny story. But there was another reason I didn't stop. One I haven't admitted yet. The night before I found the listing, I dreamed of a computer. Not just any computer, this one. I couldn't remember the brand, or the screen size, or the keys. All I remembered was the sound. A low, humming buzz, not like any fan or hard drive I'd ever heard. When I woke, I thought nothing of it. But when I saw the words "loaded with secrets," I felt the echo of that dream claw its way back to the surface. That was the hook. The part that made it feel less like me choosing and more like me following a script already written. And here's the thing about temptation. It doesn't feel dangerous when you're in it. It feels inevitable, like gravity. So I mailed the cash. I went to bed thinking I'd either never hear back or, at worst, get a box of broken junk. And maybe part of me hoped that's what would happen. That the universe would laugh at me, teach me a harmless lesson, and let me off the hook. But deep down, I knew better. Because some doors, once you open them, don't close. And the package was already on its way. When the package finally came, I almost didn't recognize it for what it was. No strange stamps. No ominous handwriting. Just a plain brown box sitting outside my door like it had been dropped off by the same guy who brings toilet paper and protein bars. For a moment, I even thought maybe it was a mix-up, that I'd wasted my money on a scam after all. But then I picked it up. The weight was wrong. Too heavy for a laptop, too solid. And the box smelled strange. Not the cardboard and tape smell you'd expect. This was sharper, like chemicals. a sterile, bitter scent that made my throat tighten. Inside was black foam padding, the kind you'd use for expensive equipment. Nestled in the center was the laptop. It wasn't new, far from it. The plastic casing was scratched, one corner chipped like it had been dropped more than once. Dust lined the keys, and when I tilted it toward the light, faint smudges glistened across the surface. At first, I thought it was just grease from someone's hands. But when I rubbed at one with my thumb, it didn't come off. It looked absorbed, like the stains weren't on the laptop, but in it. Still, I told myself I was being dramatic. My brain was just primed to see red flags. I dragged the thing to my desk, half expecting it wouldn't even power on. But it did, instantly. No boot-up chime, no lag. Just a cold, clean screen that blinked awake the moment I pressed the button, like it had been waiting. I remember leaning back, a laugh caught in my throat. Relief, maybe. Disappointment, too. After everything, the creepy listing, the strange smell, the overactive imagination, it was just a laptop. An old, beat-up laptop that still had some life left in it. The desktop was empty except for one folder, System. I almost groaned. Of course, someone had scammed me with a half-broken machine, preloaded with one boring directory. I opened it anyway. The folder was blank. I don't know why, but that unsettled me more than if it had been full of junk. An empty System folder felt intentional, like someone had cleaned it out on purpose. Still, I brushed it off. I told myself I'd reformat the hard drive, install my own stuff, and use it as a backup. Maybe even brag to a friend about buying dark web tech, like an idiot. But there was something about the way the fan hummed, soft, steady, not too loud but present, that made it hard to focus. Most old laptops wheeze and groan like they're dying. This one didn't. It purred, like it was pleased to be awake. The screensaver kicked in when I left it idle. Just a black void with a white cursor blinking in the corner. No bouncing logo, no soothing background image. Just a pulse. A heartbeat. I remember telling myself, don't be weird. It's just a machine. I forced myself to open the browser, to test the keys, to convince myself it wasn't any different than the laptop I used every day. But when I typed my name into the search bar, just to test the keyboard, something inside me froze. The keys didn't click. The letters appeared before I pressed them. At first, I told myself it was a glitch. Old machines get twitchy, laggy keys, phantom clicks, the occasional blue screen of death. Nothing supernatural about that. I closed the browser, rebooted, and when the screen came back, everything seemed fine. Smooth. Normal. And for a while, it stayed that way. Days passed. The laptop behaved like it was fresh off the shelf. Programs loaded instantly. Videos streamed without buffering. Even my own personal laptop, the one I trusted, seemed clunky in comparison. It was unsettling how easy it was to forget the thing's origins. I almost convinced myself the whole dark web angle was just me being paranoid. Almost. The first oddity was the clock. Every time I powered it on, the time was wrong. Not random wrong, either. It was always set to exactly 3:33 a.m. I'd correct it, save the change, and shut the lid. But the next time I opened it, 3:33 a.m., sharp. I laughed it off at first. Some geek's idea of a creepy Easter egg. A little inside joke from whoever owned it before me. But then the wallpaper changed. One morning, instead of the plain black background, I woke the screen to see a blurry photo. At first, I thought it was some default stock image, until I recognized the shape of the window. The window above my desk. My desk, where the laptop was sitting right then. The photo was from inside my room. I told myself it had to be coincidence, a trick of perspective. Maybe it was someone else's desk that just happened to look like mine. But when I checked the file info, my stomach dropped. The photo was taken at 3:33 a.m., the exact time the clock insisted on keeping. After that, the strangeness picked up speed. Files appeared and vanished on their own. Shortcuts named things like "you" and "open me" would blink into existence, stay for a few minutes, then disappear before I could click them. The cursors sometimes moved a hair to the left, a twitch I swore wasn't mine. I wanted to believe it was a virus. some elaborate prank. But then the webcam light flickered. Just once. A tiny red dot glowing for less than a second. Enough to make my chest tight. I covered the camera with tape immediately. Felt better for maybe 5 minutes. Then the typing started. I was working on a document. Just notes, nothing important, when words I didn't type crawled across the page. At first, I thought I'd accidentally pasted something from the clipboard. But the sentences didn't stop. I see you. Do you see me? The letters scrolled out slowly, deliberate keystrokes I wasn't making. I stared, frozen, until the cursor blinked, waiting for my reply. Against every instinct, I typed, "Who are you?" No response. Just the slow deletion of the message, letter by letter, until the screen was blank again. I slammed the lid shut, sat in silence, every hair on my arms standing up. I told myself I was done, that I'd get rid of it in the morning. Toss it in the trash, take the loss, and pretend this had never happened. But curiosity is a parasite. It eats you alive. Because before I shoved the laptop into the corner of the room, I saw it. A new folder. One I hadn't noticed before. It was named simply, "Do Not Open." And that's when I knew things were only just beginning. The folder sat there, taunting me with its plain white icon and its too simple name, "Do Not Open." Nothing about it was flashy. No glowing skull, no animated lock graphic. Just a folder like any other. But my pulse quickened every time I looked at it, as though the laptop was daring me to test myself, daring me to disobey. I ignored it for 2 days. Or at least, I tried. Every time I opened the laptop to check email or waste time, my eyes went right to that folder, the way a tongue finds a sore tooth. Sometimes I caught myself hovering the cursor over it, fingers twitching above the mouse like they had a will of their own. Finally, late one night, I caved. I clicked. The screen didn't open immediately. It froze, holding me in suspense, fan humming just a bit louder. Then, after maybe 10 seconds, the folder blinked open. Inside was a single file. A video. The title was my own name. I stared at it, a sick weight settling in my stomach. I hadn't created this file. I hadn't typed my name as the title. But there it was. I double-clicked before I could talk myself out of it. The video was grainy, black and white, time-stamped 3:33 a.m. The angle was low, tilted upward, like the view of a hidden camera, and it was pointed directly at my bed. I froze as I watched myself lying there, asleep, tossing under the covers. Every breath I took on screen echoed the one I was taking in real time. And then, movement. In the corner of the video, behind the blur of static, a figure shifted. Tall, indistinct, more shadow than person. It leaned closer to the bed, closer to me, until its face, or what should have been a face, was just pixels and distortion. The clip ended there. Abrupt. I slammed the lid down so hard the laptop rattled. My chest heaved like I'd been sprinting. Sweat beaded at the back of my neck. I told myself it had to be staged. A trick. Some previous owner recording themselves, renaming the file to match whatever user logged in next. But the rationalizations rang hollow. That timestamp, that angle, my own breathing, perfectly matched. When I worked up the nerve to open the laptop again, the folder wasn't empty anymore. The single video had multiplied into dozens, each one labeled with different dates stretching back weeks. Dates that matched the nights I'd had the laptop in my possession. I clicked another at random. This time the camera wasn't aimed at the bed. It was in my kitchen. Grainy again, but unmistakable. Me, shuffling in at midnight for a glass of water. And behind me, at the edge of the frame, the shadow again. Watching. Always watching. My stomach lurched. How many nights? How many rooms? I opened 3 more clips, each one worse than the last. The figure never moved much, never interacted. It just existed, standing in corners, leaning in doorways, a silhouette bleeding into the static. Always near me. Always at 3:33 a.m. The final video I opened cut deeper. It wasn't in my apartment at all. It was here, at my desk. The angle was perfect, centered on the chair where I sat each time I opened the laptop. The footage showed me staring at the screen, right then, right now, like a mirror with a 2-second delay. Except for one detail. In the video, over my shoulder, the shadow stood. I slammed the laptop closed again, heart jackhammering. My apartment suddenly felt smaller, darker. Every corner threatened to hide something I didn't want to see. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even turn the lights off. I sat on the couch with my back against the wall, the laptop across the room, its closed lid glowing faintly like something alive beneath the plastic shell. I should have gotten rid of it then. I should have hurled it out the window or smashed it to pieces. But I didn't, because when morning came, I convinced myself it couldn't be real. That exhaustion had blurred the line between dream and reality. And then, just before I left for work, the laptop chimed. Not the startup chime. A notification. A new message had appeared on the screen, sitting there like it had been waiting for me. Did you like the videos? The message sat in the center of the screen, stark white text on a black background. No window, no email, no app. Just words, as if the laptop had bypassed every piece of software and carved them directly into the machine's bones. Did you like the videos? I stared at it for a full minute, too afraid to touch the keyboard. Afraid that if I responded, it would mean I was accepting whatever this was. Not a glitch, not a prank, but a conversation. Still, the cursor blinked. Patient. Expectant. Finally, I typed, hands trembling. Who is this? The reply appeared instantly, keystrokes unfurling letter by letter though I wasn't pressing anything. Do you like what you see? My throat dried out. My first instinct was to slam the lid and walk away, but instead I found myself answering. No. Stop. The words vanished. Erased. Liar. I shoved the chair back, so hard it screeched across the floor. My pulse pounded in my temples, but my eyes were glued to the screen. I typed again. How are you doing this? This time, the reply took longer. The cursor hesitated, like it was thinking. We're not doing anything. You are. That chilled me more than if it had confessed to being a hacker. Because the voice, if you can call it that, wasn't trying to convince me of anything. It was telling me a fact, the way a teacher scrawls on a chalkboard. I typed faster, desperation overriding fear. What do you want from me? The response came in 3 parts, one after the other. To watch. To know. To return. Return what? I didn't get a chance to ask. The screen flickered, and another video popped up. This one didn't have my name. It was just a number, 0001.mp4. I shouldn't have clicked it. God help me, I shouldn't have. It showed a man I'd never seen before, sitting at a desk almost identical to mine. He was pale, nervous, glancing over his shoulder at every sound. His laptop screen glowed, reflecting in his wide eyes. He looked like someone waiting for a verdict. The timestamp, 3:33 a.m. The video cut off suddenly, mid-breath, and when it ended, another message appeared. He stopped answering. Will you? I slammed the lid shut, lungs burning like I'd been underwater. But even through the plastic shell, I swore I could hear faint typing, soft, steady, as though the conversation hadn't stopped. For hours, I left it closed, paced the room, checked the locks 3 times. But curiosity, that parasite gnawing in my skull, dragged me back. When I opened it again, the desktop was blank except for one fresh document titled You. I clicked. Inside was a single sentence. Don't look behind you. My whole body locked. Every instinct screamed to whip around, to prove it wrong, to check the darkness stretching over my shoulder. But I couldn't. I sat frozen, staring at the words, every muscle rigid with terror. The cursor blinked again, waiting, and then new words appeared, slower this time, almost taunting. Good. You're learning. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I swore I could still see the words burned into my eyelids. Don't look behind you. The laptop sat on my desk, lid closed, a hulking shadow I couldn't ignore. I tried to convince myself it was just some elaborate malware trick, hackers toying with me, maybe even recording me through the webcam. That was easier to believe than the alternative. But around 2 a.m., something happened that shattered even that flimsy rationalization. The knocking. At first, it was faint. 3 slow raps against the apartment door. I froze in bed, holding my breath, listening. Nobody ever visits me that late. I told myself it was just the pipes, or the neighbors. But then it came again, 3 deliberate knocks, this time harder. I didn't move, didn't dare. And then my phone lit up on the nightstand. A notification from an unknown number. The message was only 3 words. Let them in. My stomach dropped. I crept toward the door, heart jackhammering in my chest, every instinct screaming not to. But some twisted compulsion pulled me closer. I peered through the peephole. Nothing. The hallway was empty. I exhaled shakily, trying to laugh it off. My nerves were fried, that was all. Except when I turned back toward my room, I saw it. A faint glow seeping out from the edges of the laptop, even with the lid shut. I shouldn't have touched it. I knew that. But my hand moved anyway, lifting the lid like I was peeling open a coffin. The screen blinked awake, and there they were. Faces. Grainy, distorted video feeds lined up across the display. 5, 6, maybe more. They looked like people sitting in dimly lit rooms, all staring directly at their screens. At me. Their expressions were blank, but their eyes were alive, darting like predators sizing up prey. In the corner of the screen, a chat box flickered. 1 line of text appeared. "We're here." I stumbled back, my chair toppling over. For a second I thought maybe it was just a group call, some hackers on the other end trying to mess with me. But then I noticed the backgrounds behind the watchers. One was my street. Another was the stairwell in my building. Another, God help me, was the hallway outside my apartment door. My blood turned to ice. I lunged forward and slammed the lid shut again, nearly breaking it. I pressed my ear against the door, trying to hear footsteps, breathing, anything. Silence. But then, from inside the laptop, faint but unmistakable, I heard it. The knocks. 3 slow, deliberate raps, echoing out from the machine itself. I backed away, whispering, "This isn't real. This isn't real." Another notification pinged on my phone. Same unknown number. "You invited US." I threw the phone onto the bed like it was burning me, but that didn't stop the sound. A scratching began at the door, low and patient, like nails dragging against wood. I grabbed a kitchen knife and sat in the corner, knees to my chest, eyes fixed on that door until dawn light seeped through the blinds. Eventually, the scratching stopped. The silence that followed was almost worse. When I finally dared to check the hallway the next morning, there was nothing. No footprints. No marks. Just the same empty corridor as always. But when I returned to my desk, the laptop was open, and typed across the screen, waiting for me, was a single line. "We like your apartment." By the time the second night came, I was already unraveling. I tried everything, shoving the laptop into the closet, wrapping it in a blanket, even unplugging it. But no matter what I did, the glow seeped through. A thin, ghostly light that pulsed in the dark like a heartbeat. I told myself I wouldn't look. I swore I wouldn't. But by midnight, the urge had gnawed through every layer of resolve. My hands shook as I pulled the laptop back out, the blanket falling away like I was unveiling something sacred and cursed. It powered on without me touching a key. The desktop wasn't the same. The single system folder was gone. In its place was an entire screen crammed with files. Hundreds of them. Thousands. The names stretched endlessly in a grid, each one identical except for the number. 0001.mp4, 0002.mp4, 0003.mp4. The list kept going, far past what the screen could display. My gut twisted as I scrolled. Every file name felt like a countdown. I clicked one. This video was different. It wasn't a stranger this time. It was my coworker, Marcus. He sat in his cubicle at the office, tapping his pen, sipping coffee, oblivious to the camera trained on him. But there wasn't a camera. I knew that angle. It was my vantage point, the view from where I sit across from him. I slammed the escape key, breath ragged. My brain screamed coincidence. But when I opened the next file, my heart dropped. It was me. Not past me. Not some old recording. Now, the video showed me sitting at my desk in my apartment, face pale and drawn, staring at the screen. The timestamp in the corner matched the exact time, 12:17 a.m. I jerked away from the webcam, covering it with my hand, but the video kept playing. My movements mirrored perfectly, second for second, like the file wasn't recording but anticipating. I scrambled for duct tape, anything to block it, but before I could cover the lens, new windows burst open. Dozens. Hundreds. Each one a different feed. My mother asleep in her bedroom, mouth slightly open. My old high school teacher pacing in his study. Marcus again. Except now he was looking directly at the camera with dead eyes. A street corner I walked past every day. A dark room I didn't recognize, where shadows shifted like something alive was breathing in the corners. Every click just opened more. Endless lives being siphoned into this machine. The cursor moved on its own, gliding across the files. It highlighted one buried deeper in the list, far down where the numbers blurred together. This one wasn't numbered like the others. It was labeled last.mp4. My skin prickled. I didn't want to see it. Every part of me screamed to shut the laptop, to throw it out the window, to run. But my hand disobeyed, moving with mechanical obedience as the file opened. The screen went black for a moment. Then, slowly, an image faded in. It was my apartment. Same desk, same chair, same flickering lamp, except I wasn't in it. The room was empty. The camera lingered there for a long, breathless silence. And then the doorknob in the background began to turn. I slammed the laptop shut so hard I thought the screen would shatter. My chest heaved, sweat slick on my skin. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. But even with the lid closed, I heard it. That faint typing again, coming from inside the machine. I forced myself to pry it open one more time. The file list had doubled, tripled. The screen was drowning in them, names populating faster than I could read. A virus spreading like wildfire. And at the top of the list, one fresh file glowed, brighter than the rest. U.mp4. I didn't dare click, but I already knew what it would show. There's a moment when fear tips over into fury. When your mind can't take another second of trembling and paranoia, so it hardens into anger instead. That's where I was. After nights of whispers, knocks, and files that shouldn't exist, I snapped. I wasn't going to let this laptop dictate my life. I grabbed it off the desk, the plastic warm against my palms like it had a pulse of its own. I yanked the power cord free, nearly ripping the outlet from the wall, and stormed into the kitchen. If it was just a machine, then I could end this. Simple. I dropped it on the counter and pulled a hammer from the drawer. My hands shook as I raised it over my head. "You're done," I hissed through clenched teeth. The laptop screen flickered to life. No power, no cord, just glowing text across the cracked display. "Hit me. See what happens." I froze, hammer poised. My knuckles turned white around the handle. And then the images started, one after another, flashing across the screen like a slideshow. My parents' house, my old bedroom, Marcus's cubicle, the hallway outside my door. Each frame lingered just long enough for me to recognize it before the next appeared. Faster and faster, until the images blurred together. Finally, it landed on a single shot that rooted me to the floor. Me, standing in the kitchen, holding a hammer above the laptop. The picture was so crisp it couldn't have been from the webcam. It was from behind me. I spun around, swinging wildly at nothing but shadows. My kitchen was empty, silent. But when I turned back, the laptop's camera light flicked on, that tiny pinprick of green burning into my skull. My fury curdled into panic. I brought the hammer down with all my strength. The screen cracked. Glass spiderwebbed out from the point of impact. For one glorious heartbeat, I thought I'd won. Then the laptop screamed. Not like speakers blaring static. Not feedback or digital distortion. A scream, raw, human, agonized, ripped out of the machine so loud it rattled the cabinets. I dropped the hammer and stumbled back, hands clamped over my ears. The sound cut off suddenly, replaced by heavy breathing. Not mine. Not from the speakers. From inside the laptop. Each exhale fogged the fractured screen from within, like something was pressed against the glass. I staggered forward, against every instinct, against every survival impulse, just to be sure of what I was seeing. Behind the shattered LCD, faint outlines moved. Shapes. Fingers pressing outward, stretching the cracks wider. I screamed and slammed the lid shut, then grabbed the thing and hurled it into the sink. My hands fumbled for the lighter I kept for candles. If smashing it didn't work, maybe firewood. You moved, US. I yanked the plug from the wall, but the TV stayed on. The faces grew clearer, and I realized they weren't strangers. They were the same visitors from the laptop. The watchers. Behind me, my computer monitor blinked awake, even though the tower was off. One word glowed on the screen. Hello. My chest clenched. I staggered back, tripping over the broken remains of my phone. Its dark screen flickered to life for a single second, showing my reflection. Except it wasn't me. Not exactly. My reflection smiled when I didn't. I can't escape it. Smashing the laptop wasn't enough. Smashing the phone wasn't enough. It's in everything now. It followed me from one machine to the next, like I'd opened a door I can never shut. If you're hearing this, if you're watching, don't make the same mistake I did. Don't go looking. Don't invite it in. Because once you do, it never leaves.